Gilead is honored to be a part of the San Francisco Business Times Pride Celebration. And on behalf of myself and Gilead, I want to extend my congratulations to the 2020 Outstanding Voices being honored today. These accomplished individuals are being recognized for the difference they make within their companies, industries, and community by being out and open about who they are. They have inspired others up and down the management chain and in the business community to feel safe and fully themselves where they work. Through their example and often through their advocacy, they influence policy, provide mentorship, and lead change throughout their organizations, industries, and communities. Join me again in congratulating these outstanding voices.
So, what Pride means to me during this time, it's really about acknowledging the inherent differences that we all bring, sort of the different backgrounds, the different points of view, the different perspectives, the different experiences that we all carry, and then celebrating those differences and working to heal the harms that have been done in the name of those differences. And then working to ensure that those harms don't continue and aren't repeated. It's about embracing ourselves and embracing the diversity of our community in ways that bring us together and help us move forward as a people.
I'm going to start with William. When we reflect on what 2020 has been so far, I want to ask what it has meant to you as a man of color who is involved in a community, serving a community of need in terms of COVID and the social unrest. What has the year been for you, and how are you coping?
I feel sort of like we're in a civil war right now, and it's sort of a cold civil war. But there are so many ways in which we are being challenged and threatened by what's happening. COVID obviously makes it difficult. First of all, we have lots of communities, and the communities that we work with are often formerly incarcerated or low income. And, those folks who have diabetes and hypertension, et cetera, are sort of the most vulnerable to the impacts of COVID, sort of the negative impacts of COVID. But there's the racial unrest has been huge. The affront even in the White House to LGBTQ rights, it feels like it's been very difficult. And the way that I cope actually is to remember what I'm grateful for. And I always know that it can be worse. And in this time, what I do is I make sure that I am authentic and that I'm leading with integrity and that I am being honest about what's going on around me and working with folks to do the same. Because I think, oftentimes people suffer alone. And I think that talking about these things and understanding that we are in a community that is much stronger together is one of the ways, anyway, that I cope.
Now, you had told us back in June that Goodwill gets 80% of its revenue from the businesses that you serve.
Yes. And
that you did have to obviously lose out on a lot of that revenue, and you furloughed 500 people.
Yeah, so I mean, the Goodwill is unlike a lot of nonprofits because we do earn 80% of what we need through the businesses that we operate, and those businesses are actually staffed by the folks that we serve. So like I said, folks who are formerly incarcerated, homeless, et cetera. And so because we are an organization, we had 600 employees and not, we had more than 500, we weren't eligible for PPP funding. And so that meant that we lost millions of dollars in revenue. And then there was no way for us to get federal assistance in order to mitigate that. And so we wound up having to furlough 500 people, 500 of our employees. And these are some of the most vulnerable populations in the state of California. And so we did two things, though, that I'm really proud of. The first thing is we said, you know what, going from losing a job to a first paycheck from unemployment is not that, there's no bridge for most of the people who we serve. So what we did is we paid everybody for an additional month and then helped everybody get onto unemployment so that there was actually a bridge to that first unemployment check, which I can't tell you the overwhelming gratitude that we received from the folks who we serve. The second thing that we did, which I was really proud of, is, we couldn't quite imagine in a world with COVID that you would take away people's health insurance. So instead of, so we didn't lay people off, we furloughed them, so they were still employees of the organization. Our board chair, Eric Sipple, was incredibly generous and started a fund with a $100,000 check that he wrote to help pay for the benefits of employees who were furloughed. So I'm happy to say that between that and all the other board members contributed, all the senior executives contributed, and lots of folks in the community contributed, we were able to provide health benefits through the entire furlough period for the employees that we furloughed. So those two things I think I'm particularly proud of, and it wasn't easy financially to do, but it was absolutely the right thing to do.
And have you been able to bring any of the furloughed employees back yet?
We've been able to bring back about 300 of the furloughed employees. We are likely going to be closing some stores and some other things, but because we're going to have to contract a little before we can go back to how things were, but we've been able to bring back 300, which has been terrific.
Great. Moving on, I want to switch over to back over to William. And again, Susan and Robert, feel free to jump in anytime if you want to add anything. Robert, William, we were just asking Robert about his conservative upbringing. You told us that you grew up in a conservative household as well, and that actually left early on to get away from. Well, I'm going to let you tell the story. Tell us about your coming out experience and leaving home.
So I grew up in a middle-class Black neighborhood in South Central Los Angeles, and it became really apparent to me at around the age of 12, 13 that I'm gay, and that it was not going to, it was not going to be really acceptable for me to be gay in the community or at home. And so when I was 16, I had to make a choice, and that choice was I was either going to crush my spirit and sort of try to conform to something that I was not, or to allow my spirit to thrive and to leave. And so at 16, I left. I took the proficiency test, so I tested out of high school. And then I spent about 3 months on the street waiting to get into a runaway shelter. So I would walk around nice neighborhoods at night and then sleep in parks during the day. I finally got into a runaway shelter, and I'll never forget, they have to call your parents because I was a minor. And my father was furious because of, just the fact that people in the community might know, because he knew a lot of folks in the community. And so I struggled for many years, and I wound up starting a community college 4 times, and dropped out every single time, and for various reasons. And the 5th time, I was at Santa Monica College, and something clicked, and I got 4 A's and a B the first semester, and then I started the UC Club for people who wanted to transfer to UC campuses. And then I ran for student body president and won, and transferred to Berkeley with a 3.9, and eventually got a master's degree. And I was just really determined to not let this derail my life. And so it was definitely hard, and it was harder than I think it needed to be. But in the end, I am grateful for the resilience that I have developed as a result of that. And it's helped me, I adopted 2 children through foster care, 2 boys. So it's helped me as a parent. It's helped me as a gay man. It's helped me as a man of color. It's helped me in many, many ways. So yeah, and it was definitely not easy, but it worked out.
It does not surprise me one bit that you were student body president. I could feel it. I could feel it. I'd vote for you. So let me ask, have you been able to reconcile with your family?
Yeah, my dad died in 1997, and the nice thing is that my father, my mother and my 3 sisters really came around pretty quickly. It was my father who had a hard time, and I was his only boy in African-American context at that time in particular. Being gay was not something that you did or talked about, certainly. But I was with my father when he died, and we had a couple years or several years actually, of just sort of talking through things. And he did come around, and he, my sister said to me as he was dying, she said, I think that Dad is most proud of, he is the most proud of you of any of us. And I said, why do you say that? And she said, because you were always who you were always authentic, and you were unwilling to bend. And So yeah, we did reconcile, and that felt really good, and also to be able to be with him as he passed. We were able to talk some more before he died, and it was good. It was good. I feel very fortunate that that's how that worked out.
It's a wonderful story. Tell us, I'm interested, how were you able to survive on the streets?
So, as I said, I slept in parks at night. I was afraid I was going to be killed if I slept at night. So So I slept in parks during the day, and then I walked around. I sort of hung out in nicer neighborhoods at night. Every couple days, so I called the shelter every day to see if there was an opening, and they would give me quarters so that I could put it into the phone. And every couple days they would say, we have a church that's willing to let you sleep there. You can take a shower. They have food. They had some vouchers for food. So it was sort of that, it was a very scary time to be 16 and to be on my own all of a sudden. And how sometimes things happen and you look back and you're like, I don't know how I did that. I'm not really sure how I did it, but I did. And then once I got into the runaway shelter, then I was able to sort of stabilize and then move forward. And again, struggled a lot, but sort of economically, socially, psychologically, emotionally. But I'm some people are very loud, and there's also very quiet strength. And I get this from my mom. I think she's got this very quiet strength, and she will not be moved. And I got that sort of determination that even in the face of adversity, I will keep moving.
I love that. She will not be moved. One last question with you. How did that experience, how has that affected your helming Goodwill and dealing with the people that work for the organization?
So, I didn't know a lot about Goodwill when I got there. So, and until I got there, and then I realized that for me, it was always the place that you dropped off stuff, right? And that you didn't want anymore. And you kind of put the good stuff on the top and the less good stuff on the bottom, and you try to get out of there before anybody realizes it.
No one does that, do they? No one.
And then when I realized that Goodwill is about second chances, it's about providing second chances to people who have been formerly incarcerated, homeless, English as a second language, maybe who have struggled with substance use, have low education or low skill sets. And that resonated so much for me because ultimately, as I started the community colleges and dropped out, I needed a second chance. In fact, I needed a second chance 5 times before it worked. And I think that our mission is providing second chances through training in the dignity of work. And I see so many people that we discard. So many companies are unwilling to hire folks who have been formerly incarcerated or who have had difficult backgrounds. And so for me, it is this beautiful synergy to be able to lead an organization in which we are also providing second chances and helping people understand that you matter and that nobody should be defined by the worst thing that has ever happened to them or the worst thing that they've ever done. And to watch people grow and flourish and to succeed is something that is just, I can't even describe how I feel about it, but I'm so passionate and so grateful that I have this opportunity.
Really coming full circle, I would say.